Okay, so on Tuesday or tomorrow or sometime, I'm gonna be selling my Elise. Um, Here it is. I've had it for the last 4 or so years and put about 20,000 miles and some change on it, and it has been awesome. There's seriously no car like it in any way. And I definitely want to get another one day. Me and Haley are selling it so we can live up north in a house. Unfortunately, it's just time that we put that money somewhere else. Hopefully I can get another one. But while I've owned it, I think it might be a little bit cool to kind of share what it's like compared to some other cars. So the Elise is a fantastic car to it looks super good. I mean, it feels cool to drive. Like, obviously, you drive that car around, you're like, yeah, this is a cool car. I feel like a cool guy driving it. Because, I mean, just look at it. It's awesome. It's definitely like a 10 tenths car. And when I say that, I mean, it feels the coolest when you're driving it as hard as you possibly can. So, like, it gets into its range at about 6,000 RPMs. It kicks over to a second cam gear. It's got the VVT, and that's when the car really opens up, and it feels fast and it feels fun. And it doesn't have power steering, and the chassis is so light, and it's all made of aluminum, and everything's connected so well that you can feel everything in the road. And it just feels fantastic when you're driving it as hard as you possibly can. And you can, because the engine is just a little 4-cylinder Toyota engine, just a little 1.8, puts out like 160, 170 horsepower. So you can floor all the time, and it's fantastic. The car it grips like nuts. I think I put 235s on here, so it's not like a huge tire, but I mean, it's big enough. And the engine's right in the back, so all the weight's over that rear tire. There's almost no weight over this front tire. So it grips really, really hard and really good. And I mean, if the back end gets loose, which you can make it get a little bit loose, it doesn't like to be there. So it likes to just hook up again. As soon as it gets out, it likes to re-hook up. So, I mean, it's not necessarily like a fun car to slide around. I have also had the Miata. So the Miata is an awesome car as well, because the Miata is very similar to the Elise in that it has 100 horsepower and you can push it to its limit all of the time. The difference with the Miata is it has about a 50-50 weight distribution, so the weight is even over both the front and the back, which means driving it around town is easier. Well, it's easier because obviously it's not like, oh, I've had that mega zoomed in on my face. Obviously that car isn't as Spartan as the Elise. This is all out of whack. But the Elise, let's go back to the Elise. The Elise has about no cushioning in the seats. Like, that's it. It's tiny. There's no space. That's how much space is between you and the passenger. There's no cruise control. AC really doesn't work. Even when it does work, the speakers are pretty much worthless. I mean, they play music, but whatever. This is your whole interior. The floor is aluminum, the pedals aluminum. That's the whole thing. There's your shifter. There's that. You get no amenities. There's the sun visor. It's tiny. Obviously the Miata is comfortable. It's got more space in it. It's got cruise control. It's got, I don't know. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's easier to get into. When you're getting into it, you don't have to climb over this mega wall right here to sit inside. You don't sit down another, whatever that is, 8 inches to sit in the seat. You just sit in the car. But anyways, back to driving. So when you're driving the Miata, the tail can be happier. If the tail steps out, you almost want to keep it out. It's way fun right there. Because the turn-in is a little bit sharper, when you're around town and you're taking a 90-degree corner or something sharper, it feels great because you can just keep that turn-in. You can just turn in as sharp as you want, and the car just darts around. With the Elise, it still darts around, but it feels like you're dragging the whole car with it at those kind of low-speed, really tight turns. The Miata, on the other hand, those lower speed, really tight turns, the car just wants to dive into the corner. This wants to drive in the corner. It wants to be in the corner, and then it wants to be floored. So if you're going around a big swooping corner and you're in the corner, you're like, okay, I can give it more. I can give it more. I can give it more. And you can keep giving it more the whole time. And it feels great there. With the Miata, you go into a corner and you don't necessarily really want to be giving it more. You probably can, but you can't really keep giving it more because it'll just start losing grip. With this car, the grip is always there. It doesn't turn into the corners quite as fast. It doesn't have that turn in response. But once it's in the corner, you feel so comfortable with it that you're going, yeah, I can keep giving it more. So that's kind of between those cars. It's really hard to pick between the two every day. I mean, obviously, the Miata is super cheap, so it's easy to drive. It's easy to fix things on it. The Lease is, you know, a little bit more expensive. Things are still cheap to replace, but I mean, it has one body panel back here that's the whole thing, which is fiberglass, and one body panel right here, which is fiberglass. So, I mean, if you take something a little too sharp, you end up with something like that where you rub through the fiberglass. If somebody hits you and they put a hole in the fiberglass, I mean, you're repainting the whole car because there's just no other option. Shopping cart hits you, it doesn't leave a ding, it puts a hole in the fiberglass, which sucks. And then you're replacing that whole body panel. With the Miata, obviously, it's cheap enough that you kind of don't care if a shopping cart hits it. And I mean, if something does happen, it's just a body panel. You know, no big deal, you just replace it. And it's fine. So day to day, the Miata is way easier to drive. I've also been driving this. This is a 2018 Model 3 Performance. So it's the fast one. We have about a 3.10 to 60 in it. And there's no doubt that this is the ultimate daily driver. It's every bit of it is just fantastic. It's easy to drive. The climate's always what I want it to be. Charging isn't even an issue. The range is totally fine. It drives itself while you're on the freeway. That's fantastic. I would say of all the cars I've ever driven my whole life, the Tesla is definitely like, it's set the bar up here. It's so much better than every other car to just daily drive. This car, definitely the funnest car I've driven. That car is definitely the next funnest car I've driven. It's like, and it's a little bit hard to compare the two. I've also had a whole bunch of other Miatas. I've had RX-7, I've had whatever. I've got the Land Cruiser. That doesn't really compare to the rest of these cars. Pickup trucks, whatever. Yeah, I would say of all the cars, the Elise is definitely far and beyond the coolest, funnest to drive as hard as you can. The Miata is definitely like the best car to drive day to day. Well, not day to day. It's the best car to drive every day just to have fun in. And then the Tesla it's a very fun car because it's fast, but it is far and beyond the absolute best car for daily driving, road trips, everything. It's fantastic. So there's my 2 cents.